I want to show you how bullshit right wingers are, traditional conservatives are when they talk about family values. I'm going to prove it here. This is the Federalist. Florida governor, Rick Scott ignores families, protects disastrous divorce law. Wow. For the second time in as many years, Florida Governor Rick Scott has vetoed popular family law reforms that would bring his state more in line with the current research on what is best for children outside of an intact family home. See what I'm saying? People in what was Florida here, they want shared parenting. And this guy, this traditional conservative that probably talks about family values all the time, he wants to keep alimony and child support. So he doesn't want men involved. The Florida legislation passed a similar bill on alimony and child custody reform 2 years ago. Back then, Scott vetoed the bill over the alimony provisions. Friday, he vetoed the bill over the shared parenting provisions. In both cases, he ignored the research in the grassroots popularity that got each bill to his desk and sided with the feminists. There you go. There you go. We say it all the time. Any MRA with worth his salt will say it all the time. Traditional conservatives and feminists are the same people. And the lawyer interest groups. It is yet another practical example. Well, the lawyer interest groups are probably saying, well, they get a chunk out of whatever they're doing, but I don't want to get into that because guys will hook on, guys who will cope will hook onto this and ignore the feminist. It is yet another practical example of the establishment versus the populist fight that is playing out in the national politics. In international politics, it seems to be quite the global mood. And this is what I'm talking about. I know guys talk about I can say mean things about the girls when they do mean things, but it shows that the average woman is more for shared parenting. But the reason why this gets vetoed is that the average woman does not suffer from them. Even if she thinks, if the average woman suffered like the average guy does under these rules, they would be in the streets protesting and taking this shit down. They'd be fighting it tooth and nail. And that's why, even though I give kudos to the average woman in Florida, that she's rather be more equitable if they're actually voting for this. But in the end, they lack desire to fight against their own privilege. Men have to fight the privilege on their own. They got to come to terms that they got to fight the privilege on their own. Do you understand that? Thank you. Permanent alimony and single custody hurts kids. Well, oh, by the way, he says he's ignoring the research, but these guys, they're not about research. This is what they claim. Traditional conservatives, this is what they claim is good for family. They themselves claim that an intact family is best for the children. So when they claim it, what they're saying is, I'm claiming it for me. When divorce time comes around, consider that for me. Every other guy can burn in hell. That's what these guys think. The Florida bills would have ended permanent alimony. Actually, I go further and get rid of alimony. Women have been working since the 1960s. They can earn their own paycheck and set a premise of shared parenting, two areas of family law that have been tangled up since the 1970s. There you go. These right-wing, Tradcon, disgusting, I don't know what to call them. That's a proper label. They've been curb stomping this since the 1970s. They've always been against it. Alimony or spousal support fell out of favor in the aftermath of feminist second wave. Well, that's good to hear. Yet notice no one's ever been able to strike it down. In the early days, when feminists were trying to scare and chain women out of their homes, alimony was seen as a safety trap. Give women alimony and they won't go to work, breaking the glass ceiling. Thus, courts stopped granting alimony. This is all bullshit, by the way. Feminists have never put any real dent against women being homemakers, because they know it's an easy gig, it's an early retirement, and that when she gets rid of the man pays her. So don't fall for this trap. And the resulting backlash, loss of spousal support for newly employed, divorced women seemed unfair. Alimony came back in favor, but often disguised as child support. Hey, thanks. Hey, what are you again? The Federalist? Thanks. Thanks for admitting that, because we've been saying it in the actual pro-family collective forever, that child support is just free women money for women. It's not even women's support. I used to say women's support. It's not. Women don't need support. It's just forcing a man to give free money to a woman who associated with him once. Okay, let's see if I get back on track. In all other instances, assuming women were the best suited for childcare remains sexist. Of course it's sexist. Hence the Wednesdays and every other weekend and holidays dad time, which we are all familiar with. Now, I'm going to put this in the description box because I don't think I should bore you reading the whole thing out. I think you guys should be able to read this. Look at this one. Ignorance is also no excuse. There is no ignorance. These right-wingers have known this since the 1970s. For going on 3 generations now, they've hated other men. They want low-status men and men they don't know to suffer. And they just want exclusion for themselves. And by the way, I was talking to my compadre there, and he said it perfectly. I always want to give him credit. He said, what these guys are fighting for is not for safety of women. They're fighting for female privilege. So in cases where women prefer shared parenting, and they put the veto to it, they're saying, no, what we're protecting is not what you want on a personal level. We want to protect female privilege on the whole, right? They want to protect female privilege. So think about it. This is the patriarchy that the feminists have been claiming for decades. Some patriarchy. These guys want to protect female privilege at the expense of all men, all other men except themselves, and even other women if it's necessary. Now, I'll look at this, and if there's anything important I want to tell you, I'll let you know. I guess I'll add one other thing: smearing opponents instead of presenting better arguments. There aren't any arguments. There aren't any arguments to start with, let alone better ones. What did the bill's opponents have to say that Scott obviously thought was so wise? On Tuesday, while his office was full of advocates supporting the bill, a Florida Now representative went around poking some of the supporting fathers, complaining that they were being rude. In other words, for being a misogynist. That's what misogynist means, guys. Declaring that now public can see why their wives divorced them. She did not see the contradictions either in the outcry. Should any of those men physically poke her back and insulting divorced men when she was been divorced 4 times. Okay, that's all we need to know. We just know that these guys, these right-wing traditional conservatives, are complete hypocrites. They're completely hostile to men. And you need, gentlemen, the average guy, I'm talking to you, you need to join the MRA and clean up its act first and actually fight for your rights as human beings, because these guys up here, they are as anti-male as they get. And this is why I always shame the left, because the left actually has better ideas. I bet the left wing would actually go for shared parenting. Well, okay, I take that bet back, because I'll probably be sorely disappointed from what I've seen from the left. Okay, so anyway, this is all I think I need to say about this. Thank you, everybody.